Hi, well, it's 314 React here, and today we're looking at another classic NVIDIA demo. This one is called Chameleon, and it's from February 1st, 2001, and it's meant for the GeForce 3 series of graphics cards. It's a demo of the nfiniteFX engine, and it shows off the power of shading effects that can not only change the color of the Chameleon's skin, but also do some other really cool effects, kind of like what we're seeing here. Now, I love these kind of demos because they are, of course, for the GeForce 3 series, but they're just so of that era. They're so Xbox style graphics, and I just love that kind of thing. And it's a lot like the Exile demo. So we're going to be checking it out on my laptop here with the Ryzen 5000 series and an RTX 3060. And we're going to see how it performs, how it looks, and we're just going to get some really nice nostalgia from these awesome effects. So we've got the README here. It shows off the very differences in the skin as the Chameleon makes its way through a vine of shading effects. The walking motion of the Chameleon is accomplished with the nfiniteFX Vertex processor. The skin model is manipulated through a 25-bone skeleton. All the deformation is calculated in the Vertex processor. The skin surface of the Chameleon obtains a new level of realism through the nfiniteFX pixel processor, combining color maps, specular maps, reflection maps in the pixel processor. And so here we have how to run it. So we've got the left mouse rotates, the right mouse zooms, the navigate button attaches the mouse to the camera or the light source, and the draw style button goes between points, wireframes, solid or detailed. And then spacebar pauses and unpauses. Now when this installs, it comes to two bat files, as you can see here, 1024 by 768 DirectX and 1024 by 768 GL version. I've copied those and changed those so that they will now render in 1920 by 1080. It's simple as opening them up and literally just changing the two numbers here, X and Y resolutions. I believe that's 32-bit color, 24-bit depth buffer, and those other two zeros, I'm not sure, possibly something to do with anti-aliasing, but we're going to leave those alone for now. But what I found is really funny is that the message box has its own exe. You can pass a parameter into it to send different messages, which is quite funny. Very old school. So we're going to look at the DirectX version and see what the frame rate is, and then we're going to look at the GL version and try and see if there is a difference between the frame rates. And so here we are. And I've got the NVIDIA overlay up here. But ironically, even though it is NVIDIA, it's not showing the FPS. But we can see the CPU is at 20%, the GPU is at 12%. So yeah, not using a great deal of processing power here. Let me see if I can get some sort of FPS up. Alrighty, so I've had to go old school and get fraps running here. So you can see we've got about 500 to 700 frames a second, depending on what's happening. I don't know why it wouldn't work with anything else. It wouldn't work with the NVIDIA overlay to show FPS. It wouldn't work with the Windows game bar to show FPS. So we had to go real old school and get some fraps up, which kind of just makes it even more satisfyingly old school. So not too bothered about that. Just going to move this from the left-hand corner to the top right-hand corner. There we go. That's a little bit easier to see. So we can go to navigation spherical. Look at that. And we can zoom out with the right click. And we can move the camera around with the left click. This looks absolutely incredible for something from 2001. Look at that. Look at the shading. Oh, look at that. Ooh. It's like a full-on environment map. That looks amazing. Yeah, there wasn't too many details in the README, so the specifics of the shading aren't too clear. Oh my god, that looks so good. But it's definitely using normal mapping and environment mapping, and I think those are oh look at that. I think those are that's vertex shading rather than Phong shading, but it does look really good, and there's just a hell of a lot of vertices on there as well, so it looks really smooth at the top. So the FPS is consistently varying there, so I'm going to say it's going from about 500 to 800 FPS. It's not going to be an exact science, this one. Oh, look at that. Funny thing is when you get to the invisible things, because I think it's just using the environment map to render to make it look like it's see-through. It's not actually see-through, so you can't see the Chameleon behind the invisible leaves there. This is so much like the Exile demo. Yeah, if we go to points, you can see all the different points of the vertices. There's quite a lot on there, at least for the time in 2001. I don't think you'd be able to have that many vertices on a character in a proper game, so you'd be pretty much pushing the GeForce 3 here quite a bit. Oh, I'd love to run this on real hardware. It's got lines, there you go, you can see a little bit more detail of the vertices there. Get a whole ton of detail. Really nice, solid mesh there based around a skeleton, so there's no weird warping or anything like that. It's like Quake 3 or Unreal Tournament style versus warping and jiggling. There you go, the solid one here. And, oh, look at that shading. Yeah, it's Vertex shading, not Phong. But because there's so many vertices, it's really smooth and looks very, very nice. This must have been absolutely mind-blowing at the time. You have your Pentium 3, you got your GeForce 3, and you're cranking this. It must have been absolutely incredible in the day on an old CRT. And then you go to your full normal view. Oh, yes. Again, it's another one of those demos that reminds me of Beast Wars, which is crazy because when Beast Wars was out originally, like Season 1, there's no way anything in your home could run anything that looked like that. Whereas if, 5-6 years later, here you are running it on your home PC. Oh, look at that. That metallic T1000 sort of effect. And it goes to see-through. Let's go to the light mode. What you can do is click and move the light around to various positions. You can click and hold to move it around in real time. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah, you can kind of see on the lower poly leaves the effects of the vertex shading. And this is within a SDR pipeline as well, so there's obviously limits to what you can do with the strength of the reflection and the lighting. The lighting doesn't seem to have any effect here because it's just taking the cube map into account. And same with this one. Alrighty, let's see if we can find some more technical specs on this, and then we'll give the OpenGL version a try and see how fast that runs. Okay, so I couldn't find any technical specs on the Chameleon, unfortunately. It's just the README that we have to go on. So we have kind of a limited amount of information to go off of what's actually behind this, but like I said, we've got the environment mapping effects, the transparency effects, the reflections, and the vertex shading, as well as the pixel shaders running on the actual Chameleon itself, allowing it to change colors and do all sorts of other funky effects. Now, interestingly, Fraps doesn't want to work with OpenGL mode, and neither does the NVIDIA overlay, and the Windows game bar is just reporting it as 60 FPS. So I think it could be that the OpenGL version is locked to 60, I'm not sure. But I imagine given that the hardware is so much ahead of the time of this, it would still be hundreds of FPS. Anyway, yeah, I've tried experimenting with different ways, even trying windowed, and it still seems to either lock to 60 FPS or 144 FPS, which is the refresh rate of this laptop. So we won't really be able to tell what the difference is in performance between DirectX and OpenGL, but I imagine it'd be either way hundreds of FPS. The only weird thing about this is the camera can sometimes go out of control if you're not careful and can start to make you feel a bit sick. So I'm going to try and keep the camera steady here. It's also difficult to zoom out as well. It takes a while. You have to kind of keep right clicking and dragging, but we're going to zoom out to about here and get the camera here and get it to stay stable. Look at that. Look at the movement on the eyes as well. Now, I've looked through some of the texture files, and each of these things here are indeed different textures. So it's not just a case of pixel operations replacing texture lookups. It's using the textures and then using the pixel operations on top of that, or possibly using the pixel shader to look up the texture and then flick between them seamlessly. That's why you can get these cool transparency effects, as well as a smooth transition between the textures. Look at that. And then that is going to be purely pixel operations there as we go from the reflective metallic effect to the see-through effect. Again, very, very Xbox era, which ran on the GeForce 3, of course. The transition to this kind of texture isn't so smooth. I'm wondering if that's a bit of incompatibility with newer hardware. It just kind of flicks to it there. I think it's intentional that the Vine has those direct cutoffs because the Chameleon is kind of responding to the Vine, so that makes sense. Let's just give it a pause here and look around. Again, you can see the upcoming metallic reflection shader there. Oh, that looks so cool. Let's unpause it. And wait for it to... There you go, look at that. So you got the reflection shader, blending with those texture lookups. That is so awesome. God, these effects are amazing. Again, not HDR cube maps. It's got that SDR pipeline look to it, which is so classic. This is one of those demos I'd love to see redone with RTX nowadays. So what we don't see enough of nowadays is cool tech demos like this, really abstract ones. Because with ray tracing, you could do the full-on real-time reflections, everything in HDR, everything see-through, amazing shadows, ambient occlusion, everything. So we've got the model here, the .nmb file. When you look at the bat file that runs these, it actually passes that model in as a parameter. So I think if you could get another NMB file or make one some way, I'm not sure how, I don't know if Blender supports it or anything like that, you could make your own model and pass it in on the command line and have the effects be applied to it there. I'm not sure how it would work with the textures, probably not very well because they weren't made for other models, but you could do it. In fact, when you open up the NMB here, it's got texture references, Phong lookup. Okay, so maybe it is using Phong shading. That'll explain why it looks so smooth. And then some other weird data here. Yeah, I'm not really sure what format NMB is or how to make your own. If anyone does know, let me know in the comments. But yeah, that gives a lot of information. Shows that you got bump maps, blend Phong. So you got Phong lookup.tga. If we go to the textures, so you got the bump, smooth, normal. Got all the textures here. You see really basic, and then it sort of applies that Phong shading over it. Got the cube maps here. It's DDS files. You got the Phong lookup.tga. I've tried to open that up in the GIMP photo editor, which should be compatible with TGAs, but all it has is just a kind of a blank transparency and then like black color here that then transfers into sort of transparency and then into a white color here. So not sure what that's about. Chameleon eye bump, smooth, normal. Here we go. Yep, so there's the normal maps. Cool, so this is using full normal mapping. That's really cool. There you go. There's the skin around the eye normal map. So that means you can do some really nice effects with that by looking up the RGB values of this normal map and doing the lighting around it. So you can do your Phong shading around that. It also helps with the calculations for the see-through effect and the reflection effect with the environment map to create a nice curved bumpy surface. And there's the skin of the chameleon there. So you get all those really nice detailed bumps. So you can get nice lighting values over it here as well for the chameleon's body. So that's what helps warp the texture lookups over it for the environment map. So you can get all those really lovely normal mapping effects over it for the reflections. And then it's also using the pixel shader to fade in between these textures and the varied effects, like the see-through effect and the reflective metallic effect. It looks like there's some IFL files here. Not sure they do, but it looks like they're to do with the sun. Let's see if we can open that up. Okay, so they're RNL XPOS DDS. Okay, that's literally just loading the cube map up. So you've got the SunOL reflection. So you've got your positive, you've got your negative DDSs here. So you've got your X positive, X negative, positive, negative, positive, negative. If we switch to the reflection one, it goes sun, right, left, top, bottom, front, back. Yeah, okay, yeah, the previews aren't loading for these DDS files. So you've got your standard cube map there for the reflection, so it can sample those. And then you've got your negative and positive ones, which must show the opposite side, possibly flipped, so that you can do the lookups to make it look like the chameleon is see-through. So you're sampling the other side of it so it looks see-through rather than sampling what's the other side of the camera for the reflections. That's really interesting how that's set up. So yeah, by looking at all these files and stuff, you can kind of figure out how this works. User interface there, the logo, models, binaries, audio. It's got standard WAVs, standard binaries, and models. And you've got VXPs here as well. So if we can load those up. Here we go. Actually look at the shader code. You've got your constants, projection matrix, model view, light, vertex registers, normals, text chords. Look at that. That's so cool. So skin in the vertices, final projection transformation, skin the binormals, skin the normals. See, you're basically passing the textures in there, and magic is happening in here to sample that and put it through the normal map and make it look like the chameleon is invisible. It's really cool that you can just load these up and look in there. Program shiny 2 bones, 3 bones, 4 bones. Not sure what the different level of bones are. what I want to do now is take this exe and pass in 32-bit color, 24-bit depth, and these 0 zeros. I'm not sure what they'll be. I'm going to put them up to 24 and see what happens. Oh, and it came up with could not find a suitable DirectX 8 device when I did that. So these extra ones here, I'm not sure what they do. That could be the GPU ID, maybe? So if we just make this one 24 and leave the other one 0. Oh, oh, we just get nothing. Nothing loads up, just the environment map. So I think this might just be the ID of the GPU, and that's why it broke when we put that to 24, so we can leave that at 0. This, though, I don't know what this does. Let's put it down to 8. Alright, so that loads with 8. I think that's... is that anti-aliasing? Could be. You can check that out by running the 1024 by 768 bat. Freezing the camera. Yeah, so that makes it more obvious with the jaggies there and that lower resolution. There's definitely no anti-aliasing happening there. So if we go into here and put it up to 4 times MSAA, I'm assuming. No suitable depth format supported. Okay. So I think that's possibly the depth format. And what's this one then? You've got 32, 24. I've set this to 0 as well. Okay, again, nothing. What if we set this to 16? Okay, that was again blank. So yeah, playing around with these settings, I'm not sure what these do. I think that must be the overall color depth. That must be the Z buffer depth, possibly. And then I think that's possibly the GPU ID. I don't know. And this is possibly the format of the depth buffer. And that's why it has such different effects. But we can't really do a lot with that. Anything we can do is see if we can run it in 16-bit. Nope. So I'll leave those as they are. I can't really do much with that. If anyone knows what these different numbers do beyond resolution X, Y, and bit depth, do let me know. So I'd really love to find out. Again, it's really cool that you can tweak it. And yeah, that is the NVIDIA Chameleon demo. I was just going to do a quick video on that, but I got quite drawn into some of the underlying technical elements of it there. Yeah, I thought I could see like Vertex limitations on the lighting here, on the leaves, where the level of vertices is much less. If we go back to here, let's put the lighting on. Because I thought I could see the lighting moving from vertex to vertex there, rather than per pixel like Fong. I think it is actually per pixel. Or it's vertex on the leaves, but Fong on the Chameleon itself. Either way, that is so smooth and looks absolutely incredible. And the way it interacts with the normal maps, it's so good. Just wish the camera was a bit easier to control. But there we go, yep, hundreds of FPS. It's just a shame we couldn't get out of VSync lock with the OpenGL mode, and then we could have done a comparison on the difference of FPS on this ancient demo between DirectX and OpenGL. A little bit of a dive into some of the technical stuff there. If anyone knows any more of the technical details of this, do let me know in the comments. Other than that, leave a like, subscribe. There's new videos on tech and video games every week, so hit that little bell, really helps the channel. Hope everyone enjoyed that nostalgic window into the NVIDIA demo past there, and some really cool GeForce3 effects, because I absolutely love these effects. Hope everyone's staying safe, and I will see you in the next video.